really filmed much lately. And today I don't really have a whole lot of a plan. I'm just going to, I got some stiff boots I'm working on breaking in. Now that it's starting to get cooler, I can finally wear them. I want to break them in because I need a sturdy boot for some of the little adventures I want to do later this winter. So I'm just doing just a light hike to try to wear them in. Other than that, I brought some stuff. I might build a fire somewhere along if I find some of that desert tea plant that I like. But other than that, I'm just gonna get my wander on. So I found my Mormon tea plant that I like. It's a bunch of names for this stuff: desert tea, Brigham tea, Mormon tea, Indian tea. It's all named after different stuff that went down in the Southwest, because it grows all over the Southwest, and pretty much everybody who's come through here has brewed it up and sipped it down at some point. But as you can see, this thing's pretty dried out, but I'm getting some green stuff out of it. Normally it's a little more green though. I think this one's kind of dry being up in here. So I want to point out a couple things with fire in the desert. When I first moved here to Arizona from Alaska, it seemed like nothing was, it just seemed like a wasteland out here. I couldn't figure out how I was going to be able to get a fire going. Everything's so small. There wasn't any like big birch trees or spruce trees to chop down, you know. So, but there's a ton of stuff. This is just a fallen, one of these stalks from the agave plants. It's not the cleanest wood, but I mean, this stuff will burn. And I want to talk a little bit about that, because there's some different ways you can burn things, especially if you're not planning on like roasting over it, because this is going to be smoky and kind of nasty for your food if you're actually like roasting over the open flame. But if you're using if you're cooking your stuff in a pot or a pan or something, this kind of thing will work great. And there's ways to make this stuff more efficient. It's all about getting it hot. And so I'll talk about that a little bit. But this is, these things are all over. These are the fallen ones that have been here for I don't know how long. But I mean, as you look out, they're sticking up. The ones from this season, they shoot up every year. And once they fall, that's good firewood. On the back of them is this stuff that I've used before. I mean, this stuff is dry. You pull off some of this stuff and just start working it, processing it down, and it starts getting nice and soft. You got to work it a while because it's pretty bristly, but I mean, you can get this soft enough that you can start it with a friction fire or a ferro rod, definitely with a match, easy. But so you got your tinder here. This stuff will break up, you know, by hand even into some easy kindling, and you could even shave it down into tinder. But anyway, lots of options out here. You just got to kind of look for it. And there's plenty of stuff drying out in the sun, so almost everything's dry. Like I was talking about, some of this wood, it's dry enough and it'll burn well, but it's smoky and isn't like the cleanest burning, most efficient fuel. But you can make it work for you if you get the fire going hot by creating reflection, a reflective heat around it. And so just a regular fire ring that you do with, you know, like you always a lot of times build around a fire, just that is actually working to reflect the heat back in. The only thing I do different, for one, I keep it small. The only thing I do different out here though, especially if I'm going to cook over it, is I try to stagger it so that there's, like, I use blocks so that I intentionally leave air gaps between the rocks there. That lets the fire breathe, and then I actually build it up a little taller, and then you can bring it in to actually hold your pot. I use the firebox things a lot of times, which I might break that out a little later. I like those because they pack down. I don't mind the weight of them. They're tiny, but they do the same thing. They reflect that heat back in on it. It allows you to hold your pot there, and it lets me use some pretty nasty wood. I mean, I could bust stuff up like this and throw that in there once it gets going, and it'll eat it up. But if you build something like this correctly, and I've done it before. I can't remember if I got a video of it or not, but if you build them up, and as long as there's enough air intake around it and you keep it close, you can make that fire burn hot in here, and it'll do the same thing. Once it gets going, you can drop in some stuff like this and it'll eat it right up. So those are just a couple things that I've done out here that have made it nice mix, so you don't have to use a whole lot of wood, and you can use some pretty low quality fuel too, which is nice. All right, so this is just a really rough example of what I was talking about. I'd probably make this a little prettier if I was actually going to use it, but this didn't take any time to make. It's deep enough to hold everything in there and allow me to put the pot on top. Again, I might make this a little more sturdy, but the big thing here is that there's holes throughout to allow that to breathe, because you want it to be able to breathe, but at the same time you want these reflective walls that reflect the heat back in and turn this thing into a furnace. And that's what's going to let you burn through fuel more efficiently. This is the other option, and I like this because, I mean, it packs up real small, it's really light, and it's just a little thing. It even this model actually hinges together so that I don't have to link the pieces together, but that's all there. I mean, it's same principle as the rock version. It's just compact, clean, easy to assemble. I don't gotta put it together, and it's going to be a little more sturdy too. So I like having this because I don't mind packing it, and I can throw all kinds of junk in here and it burns through it good. My pot sets right on top of here. This is a firebox one. I've used the ember lit one and like it. Just whatever you want to use. But like I say, like if you're not wanting to bring out more gear, or if you're an anti-gear guy, or gal, just pile up some rocks. You can do the same thing. You lose a little bit of efficiency when you do that, unless you put a lot of time into it, but it works. But like I say, this packs up small enough and it's light enough that I don't mind carrying it around. So that's what works for me. So I might pull this out later and cook up some of that desert tea. So this is all kind of low quality wood, but it'll work. This is I think it's a cholla kind of skeleton plant thing there, or the dried version of it. Got some stalks from some agave plants, a little bit of this stuff, again from the agave. Process this down to better tinder, and then a little bit of this. These are the stalks that shoot up from those guys, but it's all dry. It'll work once we get it going. This stuff is good too. It's nice. I mean, all this stuff is good, but if you reach down and just pull away only the stuff that's already not connected, you get this really soft stuff. And again, this stuff, once you rub it around in your hands a little bit, it gets really soft, which means it'll catch a spark easy, or whatever you're wanting to do with it. For starting the fire. That's another thing I like to do if I'm bringing a Nalgene or a Hydro Flask or anything this shape. I like bringing my cup as my cooking thing because it fits in here good. Because I hate it when my pots or pans or whatever take up too much space. And I always throw it in a Ziploc just because I end up getting like, if I cook over fire, it gets all sooty sometimes. And then my lid packs away. So here's my firebox. Like I was saying, it's nice, convenient. There's a platform here with nice air holes there. These let me feed through it. My desert tea. So what I usually do with these is just get a fire going, just throwing some stuff in there just to get this thing heated up. Doesn't take much, so I don't worry too much about, like right now I can't hardly set a pot on there, but I don't really want to smother it with a pot right now anyway. I just want to be able to get some heat going, because once the heat's there, it'll eat the fuel and stuff better once I throw it in. Yep. Okay, here's my makeshift hot pad. This is sketchy. It's working. Yeah. Let that burn down. Let this hang out in here. Finish its process. Ooh, nice and green. The only rule to drinking this stuff is you have to do it with a view. There must be a view. It's a rule. The desert told me. Heading back to my car now. Just got, I don't know, maybe a mile or so left on this trail. Was able to it's always good to stop and look at poo. Trying to see how fresh that is. I have no idea how to tell how fresh stuff is. I don't remember seeing that on the way here though. I think it's coyote. I was looking for coyote signs. Where was I? I got distracted by that. Oh yeah, heading back to the car. Was able to get a fire going. Brew up some of that tea I like. I like that. It's easy to find, easy to make. Gives me something to do. Something that connects me with the desert a little bit. Yeah. Oh, broken my boots a little bit. These guys. Boom. Actually had a pair of these once, had them worn in pretty good, but then they delaminated on me. So this is my second pair. I gotta, but they take some breaking in before they're worth anything. So the secret to breaking in stiff boots is when you get back to the car, you have, boom, flip-flops ready. That is the best, because that means you get to take these things off, blah, and put something better on. Let your feet air out. Otherwise, you're just angry all day.